Greetings, fellow mortals. Just a reminder saying it's just my opinion is for cowards. With Pluribus's first season completed, I have seen many different arguments about the series, about it being too slow, about Carol being annoying, about the long shots and montages, like Breaking Bad didn't do all of this stuff over a decade ago plus. Just from the cinematography and dialogue alone, you can tell that all of Vince Gilligan's shows are from him directly. Breaking Bad is a bit faster than the rest, admittedly, but let's not act like it has a breakneck pace.
Corporate needs you to find the differences between this picture and this picture. They're the same picture.
Vince Gilligan's DNA is in everything that he has complete control over. This ranges from Breaking Bad to Better Call Saul to Pluribus and even to El Camino. You see the exact same pattern in each of the main characters. Someone who is deeply unfulfilled in their work and then experiences an intense sensation of solitude after a major event happens in their lives. Now, this isn't exactly fair for El Camino, and spoiler warning for everything in the series, by the way, Jesse was treated like an actual slave right before the events of the movie. Of course, he was unhappy and unfulfilled with his work, we all would be, but El Camino is the end of his story, not the beginning, and he, like all of the main characters of the show, was not satisfied with his mundane life and the expectations that his family put on him, which is why he started selling drugs to begin with, and what led to him partnering with Walter and ending up in this position at all.
This is quite a shock! On the other hand, it's not surprising in the least.
These themes are the very foundation of everything that Gilligan makes. Someone is deeply unsatisfied with their financial position or what they're actually doing in their work or their family life, etc. Now, the first part is easy to understand, with the gap between the rich and the poor rising more with each and every year. Homelessness not being properly addressed anywhere at all in any conceivable fashion, costs of simply surviving skyrocketing, and inflation rapidly beating interest on simply saving your money. Isn't all that just fantastic?
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
As someone that broke into Hollywood and probably lived on microwave ramen and baked potatoes at one point, Gilligan has felt the primal urge to better one's position in life. Gaining more resources for you and your group is the basis of natural selection. Wanting more and working towards that goal is never portrayed as a fundamentally bad thing in Gilligan's stories. It's only how people go about increasing their wealth that he has a problem with.
What the f*** am I looking at?
The consequences of our actions!
If you want some excellent examples, just look at Howard and Carol. Both of them are wealthy, but neither of them are portrayed as bad people who deserve to be punished. The tragedy of their suffering is that they really didn't do anything to justify the karma coming against them. Sure, they're not perfect people. Howard's a nepo baby and a bootlicker to Chuck at the very start. Carol's a perpetual grump. They're both miserable during their introductions, but they're never portrayed as being bad for earning their places through hard work.
We just need money. One more decent take and we're gone.
The same thing could be said for Saul or Jimmy at the beginning of his own series. The worst thing that he does at the beginning of Better Call Saul is to use his old scamming skills to gain clients, and he paid for the first one with Tuco basically immediately and intensely. And the billboard stunt really wasn't that bad. Literally every single company nowadays does far worse than this. In fact, the vast majority of the first season portrays Jimmy as someone who is trying to do the right thing simply for the sake of it being the right thing to do. You know, until Chuck.
I hate you!
The problems occur when his morals start to decay, when he doesn't care about the human consequences of his actions, when he starts to accept crime as a justifiable means to get what he wants, to get the end that he desires, just like with Walter and Jesse, both of whom embody the theme of unrealized potential. Despite what anyone might think Jesse is an intelligent character who could have been successful in basically everything that he tried, and Walter would have been a multi-millionaire if he hadn't let his pride get in the way of business.
Go ahead, mock me. But it wasn't Stewie who was laughing at me. It was God!
Yep, Walter was dating Gretchen and was engaged to her long before Breaking Bad started, but he felt inferior due to her wealthy family, so he dumped her and sold his shares of Gray Matter Technologies. Jesse probably would have been financially supported through college by his parents, even if they are insufferable. These are not people who made great choices in their lives, and to be fair, neither was Jimmy at the beginning of his life.
You shout like that, they put you in jail. Right away. No trial, no nothing.
But Jimmy was trying to redeem himself while Walter and Jesse were doing the exact opposite. I can only imagine what Gilligan witnessed during his time paying his dues in Hollywood. Don't forget that he was 41 by the time that Breaking Bad first came out. He had jobs, but he was not luxuriously wealthy. He started at the bottom and worked his way up. And I bet he saw a lot of people in the industry with the same dreams as him fall into various forms of temptation along the way.
You were the chosen one!
In many ways, I think that Gilligan's shows might be a reflection of what he witnessed during his time in Hollywood. There were plenty of people who never made it or just decided to break bad in a different way, or at least they had to compromise. Carol spent a lot of time in her first season of Pluribus lamenting about her own dissatisfaction with her writing and how she changed her vision of her books in order to become more popular and more successful, because she was writing romantasy, and a lesbian romance isn't going to light a fire in the wine moms across the world.
I'm just kidding.
I'll do it though.
I'm just playing, dude.
No, I'm serious.
It's rare for people to be able to share their uncompromised vision of something and for it to be immediately successful. There usually has to be some compromises along the way, and then you, as a creative person, get stuck into one role, into one stereotype. Just look at the actors involved in Breaking Bad. While he had work, Bryan Cranston was the goofy dad from Malcolm in the Middle for years. Bob Odenkirk was a comedy writer. Jonathan Banks wasn't even supposed to be a major character in the series, and Giancarlo Esposito was contemplating some desperate measures before Breaking Bad just to support his family.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
The theme of being stuck in life is prominent both in universe and in real life surrounding all of Gilligan's work. This is especially true for people going through their midlife or twilight years crisis. Jesse is literally the only exception here, but he was also not a character that was supposed to last nearly as long as he did. In fact, it's kind of a miracle that Breaking Bad is as rock solid and coherent as it is, considering how few things were actually planned in retrospect.
Does that make sense? Ladies and gentlemen, I am not making any sense. None of this makes sense.
I bet the feeling of being stuck had been a prominent factor in Gilligan's life. Before Breaking Bad and after Breaking Bad, the before was obvious with the struggles of every single writer, actor, or director in Hollywood that wasn't a giant Nepo baby hire. But afterward, there's also the problem of being the Breaking Bad guy. The franchise had been his entire life for 14 years. Even if everything he made was fantastic, he also most likely got the itch to do something else and prove that he wasn't simply the crime drama guy, that he wasn't a one-trick pony.
How funny to you? Funny how? Like a clown? Am I wearing big shoes, a funny hat?
Such feelings came out in both Better Call Saul and Pluribus. From season 2 onward, the push in Better Call Saul was for everyone to have more than what they already had. It is greed and resentment and boredom, in Kim's case at the very least, which pushes the characters onward, which is far different than the hubris of Breaking Bad. In fact, each main character in Better Call Saul would happily humiliate themselves in order to further their agendas. Not Walter, though, although at least Walter had the time limit of his cancer to justify himself for a time at the very least, everyone in Better Call Saul could have called it quits and backed down at any time, basically until the very end. Except for poor Nacho. Poor Nacho.
First, let's get one thing straight. I'm not crying. I'm just sweating through my eyes.
Pluribus is odd because it shows the other side of creativity, the success, the feelings of being creatively stuck, the oddity of having fans ask you the strangest things imaginable, the wondering just who really is on your side and what they actually think of your work, the regrets, the desire to push yourself past your boundaries. Not like I know what that's like. I've still been in the whole building yourself up phase, but I can imagine.
Failure!
That's why Pluribus is so different from Breaking Bad, not just in terms of the genre, but in terms of concept. Carol wouldn't commit any crime to get ahead or hurt someone intentionally. She has a stricter moral code at the start and throughout Pluribus's first season than any of Gilligan's other characters. Although, oddly enough, she has by far the highest body count, even counting Walter's numbers through possible overdose and branching crime originating from his drugs. Isn't that something to think about, huh?
Really makes you think.
While everyone in Pluribus is deeply flawed, none of the survivors are strictly evil at the very start. They show multiple layers and value in life, even if they don't all understand the concept of living or consent. I'm looking at you, Kumba. Those bodies don't belong to the hive mind, you creep. I'm still standing by this, even if he showed a lot of kindness to Carol. His debauchery and what Carol does to Zoshia's body are gross. I get that they're desperately trying to cope with the apocalypse, but evil is still evil.
I know what you are!
But I do have to note a single important difference. Carol was defiant for a long time until the raw despair of feeling like the last sane human being alive without anyone to help her in any conceivable way finally broke her. While Kumba enrages me, Carol gets my sympathy at the very least. All of her attempts to reach out to save the world are squashed from all possible directions. At one point, the hive mind and the survivors want nothing to do with her. She was completely and utterly alone. I can't even imagine.
Where the is everyone?
And that isolation is a thing that breaks her. You can look at any study of solitary confinement and see just how mind-shattering it is. In fact, any amount of time spent in solitary increases the risk of death in the first year after release from prison. Individuals were overall 24% more likely to die in the first year after release, including from flatlining yourself, thanks for the censorship, YouTube, 78% more likely, and homicide 54% more likely. They were also 127% more likely to die of an opioid overdose in the first 2 weeks after release. Isn't that amazing?
Oh, I made myself sad.
It's one of the reasons that COVID lockdowns shattered people so much that they still have yet to completely recover years upon years later. A complete lack of seeing and speaking with other human beings in person is not healthy. We are social creatures, and this is coming from the single most introverted human being that you will ever meet. We need each other. If we don't have interactions, we fall apart. It is in our nature, in our genetics. This is expressed in a lot of fiction, from Robin Crusoe to I Am Legend. If someone doesn't have someone else to talk to, they will just make one.
I'm sorry! I'm sorry, Wilson!
While the previous themes and ideas express what Gilligan was feeling and contemplating at the time of their creation, basically his state of mind overall with his art, every single series has one thing in common that can't be disputed. From Breaking Bad to Better Call Saul to El Camino to even Pluribus, Vince Gilligan's single greatest fear might be the concept of pure, unadulterated isolation.
Son of a... I said 3 days, not a week! It was 3 days!
I swear!
I can't begin to explain the origin or his thought process, but here's the thing about writing. What someone writes says something about them. It's what they're thinking about late at night when they're drifting into sleep. Now, people deny this. They want to disconnect those aspects, that their creative side and everyday life are not the same, but I argue that it's the exact opposite. After all, a piece of writing can't simultaneously be a deep expression of someone's soul and also not tell you a single thing of exactly who they are.
Now let's see how it looks so far.
You think that I'm any different? I often like to write about the corruption and moral greatness that exists in every single leadership position. Despair in the face of overwhelming odds, death and sadness being overcome through hard work and sacrifice to reach a better sweet ending. I describe writing as having a conversation with myself, and that's what this is. And because solitude is in everything Gilligan writes and directs, his mind drifts to that a lot. I can't tell you why, but if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, you know it might just be a duck.
The cow goes, Shazoo! It most certainly does not.
Gilligan's 3 shows and 1 movie demonstrate the suffering and fallout from unfiltered isolation. Walter is stuck in a cabin without any company because if anyone sees him, he will be arrested. He literally has no one to talk to the point that he eventually pays the guy protecting him an absurd amount of money to simply keep him extra company for just a little bit. You know what they say, water in a desert is priceless if you're dying of dehydration.
Food, water, atmosphere.
Saul Goodman's isolation is vastly different. He has to put on a face, work a job he despises, and keep an eye out for anyone who might recognize him at all. He has no one that he can trust. Even people who he pays from his old life don't exactly want anything to do with him. Saul is experiencing being alone in a crowd. He can't trust anyone enough to be his true self. At the absolute best, the people around him are pawns to be manipulated. Those black and white episodes of Better Call Saul are the most heartbreaking in the show because of how absolutely pathetic and beaten Saul is at that point.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
Now you can argue that Jesse got the worst of it. He became a literal slave to a bunch of white supremacists who want him to cook for them until his dying breath. He's abused, starved, chained, and crushed into submission. He has the isolation of being treated worse than a caged animal, because if the police found an abused animal, they would at least try to find it a home. Jesse would just be tossed away without any empathy or consideration at all. It's only because Jesse has friends who actually stood by him in the end that he even achieved the slightest bit of a happy ending.
Oh, I forgot how bad it looks.
I've seen worse.
But while Jesse had the worst of it, Carol didn't even do anything wrong to begin with. She was only trying to save humanity. All of her actions were morally correct and necessary up until the hive mind abandoned her. And even after that, until she realized that nothing she could do would convince anyone to actually save the world instead of desperately coping in despair. And you know what this earned her? Every human body alive refusing to speak with her or even be in the same city as her. Carol suffered for trying to do the right thing, and it absolutely broke her. And that's why I love the first season of Pluribus. Sorry, not sorry.
Whoa, this is heavy. There's that word again, heavy. Why are things so heavy in the future? Is there a problem with the Earth's gravitational pull? What?
Vince Gilligan's work, like everyone else's, demonstrates a lot about who he is as a person. Despite having made a crime franchise for years upon years, he has a strict moral code, knowing the difference between right and wrong, or even legal and ethical. There are a ton more themes and plot points which connect all of his series, but these are the ones which stand out the most to me. His thoughts on the desire for success, his feelings on his own work in the creative process, his terror at the idea of being completely alone, his memories of people breaking bad in any conceivable way in order to gain a little bit of success, and many, many more, which you are welcome to point out in the comment section after you like the video and subscribe.
How's Lurch? He's in the freezer. Just say cool off. No, I didn't say anything actually. Shame.
Gilligan puts a lot of himself into his shows, including his own moral code. Despite this, it never comes off as preachy or overindulgent. It's why he's created the best shows in television history. But what do you think? Which of his themes do you like the most? Which resonates with you the most? Which show do you like the most? Please leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And remember, if you disagree with everything I have to say, that is perfectly fine. After all, everyone is entitled to their objectively wrong opinion.
Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
Thank you all so much for watching.
You're still here?
Good night, everybody. Thank you. You bye. Boom.
Do not despair.